Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday tip. I'm 𝗤𝘃𝗀𝗀𝘁. With me as always is Mark Ainley. And with us for the first time from our friends over at Essex Realty Group, Jordan Gottlieb. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
We are excited to have you. We ran into 𝗦𝘃𝗲𝗏𝗵𝘁. We appreciate the referral. We said we want to do a quick State of the Union on multifamily investing in Chicago. And he said, I have just the guy for you. So a lot of our listeners are looking to make that jump from their 3-unit up into, an actual multifamily, 8-unit, 12-unit building. It's August 2023. Can you give us just a quick State of the Union? What's going on in the Chicago multifamily market right now?
That's a big question to answer all at once, but I'll certainly give it a try. I would say the market in general right now is far healthier than the media outlets would generally have you believe. Certainly the national ones would have you believe, but even the more local ones, we tend to receive a lot of negative headlines in the city that I think are a little bit overplayed, given how strong the rental market has been in Chicago in 2023. You could argue it's been one of the top rental markets in the entire country during this time. We're seeing strong rent increases on both renewals and new leases, and that's really propelled the market forward. And I think the value of most buildings has held up extremely well during these last 12 months of interest rate hikes, which has not had anywhere near the negative impact on building values in Chicago that we're hearing about in other markets such as the Sun Belt.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, you're out there and saying, oh, I can't make this pencil, and there's still multiple bids on it, right? There's some things that I'm as a buyer and someone who wants to be constantly buying, there's still a lot of demand currently, not pent up, like it's happening right now.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of demand to buy multifamily in Chicago right now. I think maybe one difference from the past is that in the past, maybe someone would throw a property on the market at a really crazy price that made absolutely no sense, right? And if they waited long enough, maybe they would stumble into the right buyer who could get financing at 3% or something like that. I think those days are largely gone, and a lot of the deals now do make a little bit more sense on paper. I think a lot of them actually do make really good sense on paper, especially some of the ones we're selling with assumable debt right now. Has actually been a focus of ours lately, where someone's inheriting debt that was acquired at 4% or 4.5% and has 3, 4, 5-year term left on it, and those deals do pencil out, but people also have to pay a price that they're comfortable refinancing in the next few years, and are comfortable with the result of that refinance.
The trends of the Sun Belt or the coasts are usually signs of things that might come to the Midwest. How is this different this time around versus in the past when that's been the trend?
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing here, and I started at Essex in investment sales in September 2008. That was the start of the financial crisis. So
great
just
time
to back
to
up
get
for a
into
second,
selling multifamily.
to back
Nice
up
work.
for a second, I've seen bad markets, and I know what a bad market looks like. This isn't even close to one. we're not even sniffing it. When I first started here, we were selling properties that seemingly were losing 5% of their value on an almost weekly or monthly basis. At some point. So this isn't even close to that. But what happened in the Sun Belt back then, where there's a lot of speculation and a lot of ramp up in pricing and a lot of overvalued speculated buying, I think a lot of that happened again, this time around, but just this time in multifamily. And what happened in those markets is that the cap rates fell into the 3s at various points, 3, 3.5. And what happens is when you buy a 3 or 3.5 cap rate, you cannot obtain fixed rate debt. So what does that mean? You likely got something like a 3-year loan with the interest rate was floating, and it floated above SOFR or LIBOR or prime rate or whatever that is, right? And when you acquired the property, you acquired that 3 cap with the intent to raise rents substantially, and your interest rate was in the 2s or 3s. Well, in a lot of those markets now, rents have started to go down or at least go flat, and your interest rate isn't 3 anymore. Now it's 7 or 8. And that's a losing formula. We all know that, right? Here, the lowest our cap rates ever got, at least for what we do at Essex, was maybe around 5. And in a lot of cases, they were closer to 5 or 6, right? And you did put fixed rate debt on somewhere in the 3s or 4s, and your rents have gone up as well in the last 18 months. So you're mostly still looking at a pretty successful deal, even though you bought at a time when rates were low and prices were high.
No, that's great stuff. Let me throw my own little anecdotal thought here. The other thing is it's tough to build in Chicago, right? These places that have room, you see the cranes everywhere. My brother's in Denver, and you go from the airport to Denver, and they're just, it keeps going, crane, 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 crane. They can catch up to demand by building supply. And there's that lag time before it's actually built, where you could potentially end up with a glut. It's hard for us to build here, right? Like it's very hard for us to meet demand, even if we wanted to.
Yeah, Tom, it's a great point, and it's something that I have been talking about in Chicago forever. We're delivering in a city of 2.7 million. We're delivering a couple thousand units a year, maybe 5,000 at the most. A city like Dallas with 800,000-900,000 people, they're delivering 20 and 30,000 a year, as well as Denver, right? Both of those places have infinite land and possibilities to build stuff. We just don't have that. We don't have infinite land.
Yeah, Denver's, I forgot the number, but they're building 4 or 5 times the amount of supply. To be clear, they're closer in population to Naperville than they are to Chicago. Truthfully, so it's just crazy to me. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
What does that translate though for investors? Like what you guys are saying?
Well, so a smart client of mine, who is looking at both Denver and Dallas, and I'm not saying those can't be great investments, and they've been great investments for people. But one person said, he's pitched a deal in Denver. It's 200 units or 50 units, whatever it is, and there's farmland right next to it that's developable again, right, at a cheaper price. So he says, why would I buy that at $300,000 a unit if the person next to me is just going to build a newer, better version of that for 200,000 right next to me, right? Why would I buy that when someone's just going to replace me next door with a better building? So that's happened a lot. And what happens to your rents a lot when someone builds a better building next to you? Well, a lot of times your rents will moderate during their lease up when they're giving away concessions to get things leased up. So what I would argue with in Chicago is we still have a lot of demand to live here, and we're not increasing supply. In some neighborhoods, we're actually taking supply away, such as Lincoln Park. If you're near Armitage, right around those really nice streets of Orchard and Cleveland and those, they're regularly removing buildings where 10 and 20 people live in and replacing them with a single family home that 4 people live in, right? So you're actually fundamentally taking away supply from a market. And most of the supply that's coming online in Chicago is happening in one small section of the city, called the West Loop or Fulton Market. Building 10,000 units there is great, but I don't know that it's fundamentally going to change anything for neighborhoods like Logan Square or Albany Park, Humboldt Park, Bucktown, Lakeview, Uptown, places where people want to live aren't seeing a lot of new supply.
Yeah. What's your prediction on rents? Let's say, the 2024 spring market can have a lot of renewals. Do you foresee, the same type of increases we've been having? Do you see it'll start to moderate a little bit more?
Yeah, Tom, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be out raising money in a hurry and going all over the country if I could predict the rental market. What I'd say is in 2022's rental market was superb. 2023 seemingly got even better. And like I said before, it was just about the best rental market in the country, save for maybe a Miami during this summer. Next year, I don't know if you could keep projecting this amount of rent growth, but like we said before, the same factors are going to be at play here. More people are going to move here. People are going to graduate from their Big Ten colleges or move out of their parents' house, whatever they're doing. And a lot of them are going to come here, and we're not adding new units to put them in, right? And people, and just as importantly, people that want to move into single family homes are increasingly unable to because of a complete lack of supply on that end as well, right? There are almost no homes for sale. There's really no sign that's going to get much better. So the couple that is making good money and maybe has a child or another one on the way or something like that, their ability to go buy a single family home, whether it's in the city or the suburbs, has been rapidly diminished. So what do? They turn around and rent a fairly expensive apartment, a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, even $6,000 apartments, going to those people to service their needs at this point. So I think we're going to continue to see strong demand. It's hard to say it's going to keep going up at the rate we've seen previously, but there's no reason to think it's going to stop tremendously.
That all being said, is there anything that buyers should be aware of in this upcoming 6 months?
Buyers of apartment buildings, what to be aware of. Buildings are on the market, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff that is mispriced sit there for a tremendous amount of time, quite frankly. And I think you will see people start to come back to meet the market. Sellers or other brokers out there start to realize that the pricing is off and needs to come down a little bit. I think the market is still going to be fairly steady. But in terms of what to be aware of, I think you have to be talking to not just your traditional lender. I think you need to be working with a large variety of lenders, right? Because what we are seeing is someone who has always gone to the same bank their whole lives. They're telling me rates are in the 7s, 8%, that's the loan they're getting. I said, well, I understand that some people might be lending at that, but there's plenty of debt out there in the 6s today. And until just recently, it was in the 5s for some lenders. So you've got to be searching long and hard, contact a good mortgage broker, contact a good multifamily broker. We have tons of lending resources out there. If you're only working with one lender right now, that's going to be bad for you, because that's going to severely constrain your ability to buy a property today. And one thing I'd add just about the sales market that a buyer is going to incur is that pricing today is almost lender constrained, right? There's a lot of people that might say, I want to buy this property. I'm willing to put down X amount. My lender's only willing to give me this. So this is what I can pay. Forget what I think it's worth, or the seller thinks it's worth, or the buyer thinks it's worth, or the realtor or broker thinks it's worth. Lenders are a lot of times controlling the real ending sales price of a property right now. If you have 30% to put down on a property and the lender says, I'll lend you 700 and you're putting down the other 3, well, you can only spend $1 million on that property then. Even if you think it's worth, even if everyone in the deal thinks it's worth $1.1 million or $1.2 million, that property's worth $1 million today, because that's what the lender's willing to do for that particular buyer. So talk to multiple lending sources, be willing to talk to a lot of different people, because each lender, banks, they get hot at certain moments and try to lend money out a little bit more urgently, and then others will pull back at certain times. And I saw this when I first started in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. You needed to have a lot of different lending options, because you never knew who was going to be more aggressive trying to lend money at a certain time.
Yeah, and that's one thing we're seeing is, a lot of these lenders, they still have quotas to hit. The rates are what they are and they're competitive, but we're starting to see give on more terms. Like I'm being offered interest only from everyone now, right? Where I used to have to beg everyone for a year for that. Now everyone's doing it, everyone's doing whatever they can to be aggressive and to be, a player in the space. So you're getting interest only, you're getting prepays waived, right? Because everyone knows you're going to refinance in 2 years, 3 years. So, there's a lot besides just rate. There's a lot of terms that you might not think of, that there's a lot of different levers to pull to try to, make everything fit within the box here.
Yeah, I'd add in recourse too, because the leverage has dropped a little bit. I'm seeing lenders that previously did not offer.
You're at 65
non-recourse.
LTV. It's much easier for them.
Yeah, they're saying non-recourse, and I went to one lender. I was shocked. I said, I've never seen you offer that, and they're like, well, we're only offering 65%, so it's pretty easy for us to offer non-recourse.
Yep, cool, good advice. Mark, we good to wrap here?
We're good to wrap.
Let's do it. Who are we playing for? All
right, today's Chicago Fact is we're playing for Claire D, who ordered a t-shirt, and today's sponsor is Essex Realty Group. So Claire, if myself or Jordan gets this question right, you'll get a $50 gift card brought to you by Essex Realty Group.
All right. So our guest today found out did a stint at Chicago Kent College of Law. So our fact is based around that. So Kent is the second oldest college of law in Illinois. It was founded in 1888. Which university is the oldest? And your options are Northwestern, University of Chicago, University of Illinois, Loyola University. Mark, you get first shot, and then Jordan, you get a shot.
University of Chicago.
Jordan?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go with as well.
No, it's the Wildcats.
Northwestern's older than University. Really?
Northwestern, Pritzker School of Law, 1859. I don't think it was called that back then.
I was so confident in that too. Man,
I think with all the money I paid for law school, they would have taught us that.
Oh, man. Well, Claire, I was so confident that I'm going to make sure you still win. So we're going to send you a $50 gift card brought to you by Essex Realty Group.
It's Essex money. They just said the market's fine. So
Yeah. So. All right, guys. Jordan, thanks for coming on. We'll definitely have you back soon. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, head over to straightupchicagoinvestor.com and go to build your team. On there, we have people that if you're if you're starting off and you're looking to make sure you got the right people around you, or if you're looking to replace some of the people on your team currently, we got people that can do tax testing, residential lenders, commercial lenders, attorneys, home inspectors, architects, accountants, and contractors and general contractors. So head over there, build your team on our website. Check it out. Jordan, thank you very much. Tom, thank you. And listeners, we'll see you Thursday.
thanks all.
Thanks, guys.